A Portuguese cadet who was attached to our regiment received a shell in the centre of his body, which, bursting at the same instant, literally blew him to pieces. And
accounts from the Napoleonic Wars, Spain and Portugal. I saw this video a while ago, and I was like, should I react to this? I was like, honestly, you know what? Fine, I'm gonna do it. Oh, that quote would not age well.
French Emperor Napoleon Bonaparte launched a war against Spain, until then one of France's closest allies. But Napoleon saw a country that was backward.
Closest, bro. Oh, that even hurts more, bro.
Enthralled to its priests and ruled by an incompetent, dissolute monarchy. He intended to sweep away these corrupt institutions and bestow upon Spain the benefits of Napoleonic rule. Reform, modernization, efficient government. The Spanish people, pious and loyal, reacted with fury.
But was it necessary though? Was it really necessary to do those reforms? Right? Because in France, the people wanted the monarchy gone. I don't know what it was like for Spain. I know Spain was also ruled by the Bourbons as well, but I think it was different. And as he just said, well, they were loyal. So, I mean, yeah, you can't like do something to someone if you don't want it, man. Like, it's like trying to pour freaking water on a freaking closed bottle and expecting the water to go inside. So
result was a savage war that lasted nearly 6 years, costing 500,000 lives and helping to bring down Napoleon's empire.
500,000 lives, bruh.
It was their war of independence. For their British allies, the Peninsular War. These are the voices of witnesses to those momentous days.
I wonder how he got these voices. I'm actually quite curious about that.
In the spring of 1808, French troops, posing as Spain's allies, occupied many Spanish cities by stealth. But as it became clear Napoleon intended to depose the Spanish royal family, opposition mounted. In Madrid, on the 2nd of May, a tense situation between locals and French troops exploded into violence. The famous Dos de Mayo. A local priest witnessed the uprising.
Blind with the rage and fury, some fired on the French from windows and street corners. Others flung themselves on their very ranks.
Ain't no way this is how a freaking no way this is not how a freaking Hispanic accent sounds. No way, bro. No way.
Others hurled stones, pieces of furniture and pots and pans from the balconies.
Bro, this sounds like a freaking English person trying to do a Spanish accent, bro.
They were joined by women armed with cauldrons of boiling water. It really seemed as if there was not a single person who did not want to water the streets with French blood, even at the cost of their own.
For all its fame, French losses in this revolt were only 31 dead and 114 wounded. But stern French reprisals saw around 300 Spanish prisoners shot and set the tone for a war that was to be fought to the knife, with terrible cruelty on both sides. As Napoleon announced that his brother Joseph would be the new King of Spain, fighting spread across the country. At Zaragoza, Spanish soldiers and civilians joined forces to defend the city against the French.
About 1 o'clock, the French troops approached the city, whereupon we immediately
Now, this actually sounds more like a actual Spaniard accent.
fire on them. This was accompanied by a display of valor on the part of the inhabitants that has few equals. Seeing that the French were inside the walls, they rushed to confront them, with no other protection than their own noble breasts, and forced them to retreat in a hail of fire.
Captain Józef Mieroszynski was a Polish officer serving in Napoleon's army and took part in the assault.
A bloody fight began, and the defenders of Zaragoza
Oh, we got. Oh, he's doing everyone. Oh, I just thought he was just doing this from like the Spanish perspective. Oh no, he's doing everyone. Oh, we got Polish accent now.
for the first time saw their enemies checked. This cheered them, and whole mobs of them now began to rush towards the gate. Crowding into the houses that overlooked it, they opened fire from the windows and roofs on our men, who could not see them, to fire back.
Oh, guerrilla warfare, baby.
Crossing our columns from all directions. General Lefebvre recognized the need to fall back from the walls of the city and gave the order to retreat.
The people were in great confusion, but this in no way interfered with the unmatched heroism they displayed. This was especially true of the women, who from the very beginning kept the defenders supplied with water, wine, and brandy, and mingling among their ranks, their spirits,
Wait.
and helped them to defeat an enemy who was as daring as he was ferocious.
Bro, what the heck happened to women, bro? What the heck happened to women, bro? Seriously, what happened with women, bro? Most women today, they're just not capable of that. Like, they are literally not capable of this, bro. Like, this reminds me of when I forgot what video I was reacting to. It was a video from, I think it was either my Rise of Islam or Prophet Muhammad, one of the battles, and the women encouraged the men to get back up and go and fight. And they were talking about how the women also like helped and fight as well when the enemies had reached their lines, and they pointed out how like most women today would not be able to do that. And someone was like, well, they were kind of more or less forced to do it, or they would be put into like slavery or blah blah blah. Bro, there would be no. This is 1808. Okay, that sure, slavery was around, but not the type of slavery for them. Okay, not for them. The guys, women were just strong back then. And you know, the more when you really and truly see this, right? And this is just a me thing, but I always just ask myself, like, bro, you look at this, you see women, how women were back then, and you're like, what in the world happened? Because you see women now today, like, what in the world happened, bro? At least women in the West. I'm not sure about women in the East or other parts of the world. I don't know, man. But Spain is in the West, so this would apply to them. It's like, what happened, bro? Like, I mean, at least, and this does show that women can be very much capable. Okay, like, you don't need to freaking pander towards them and promote a whole bunch of nonsense all the time. Like, my woman strong. Like, no, bruh.
The destruction that we suffered was very great.
That summer, Napoleon's most stubborn enemy, Britain, sent forces to aid Spain and Portugal, which the French had also invaded. In July, around 14,000 British troops landed at Mondego Bay. Among them, Private Harris of the 95th Rifles, thrust into action at Rolisa just days after disembarking.
The Rifles indeed fought well this day, and we lost many men. Joseph Colquhoun was by my side, loading and firing very industriously.
Oh, this guy is Scottish. Oh, this guy is Scottish. Yeah, it's funny because whenever people hear like the accent from my country, they think that it's like an African accent, but it's not. This is how I would say the average person in my country sounds like, this accent. Mostly because Barbados was originally settled by Scottish and Irish people, so it's kind of a mix. I also do have this. I can speak like this if I wanted to. It's just that I don't. Although if you listen to me, if you watch my videos long enough, you can definitely hear it with some words that I pronounce. You can definitely hear the accent come out. But I speak in more of a King's English tone because you need to understand what I'm saying.
He lifted his canteen to his mouth. "Here's to you, old boy," he said, as he took a pull at its contents. As he did so, a bullet went through the canteen, perforating his brain, killed him in a moment.
Oh, wow!
Close to him almost immediately, struck by a ball in the thigh. Indeed, we caught it severely just here.
Woo!
Simmons struck full in the face by a round shot, and he came to the ground a headless trunk.
Oh! Oh, brutal!
French regiments were accompanied by a number of women.
Bro, people like to glorify the Napoleonic Wars and how people were like in lines and square formations marching towards enemy fire. Dude! But I noticed that people they tend to forget that, you know, there's that what we just heard, man.
Provided services from laundry to nursing, and often married men in the regiment. They knew any battle might bring dreaded news.
When the roll was called after the battle, the females who missed their husbands came along the front of the line to inquire of the survivors whether they knew anything about them. Amongst other names, I heard that of Colquhoun called in a female voice, without being replied to. As I looked at the poor sobbing creature before me, I felt unable to tell her of his death.
Oh, bro, heartbreaking.
For all.
Oh, yo, dude, I literally just got so much shivers through my skin from that. You can't really see it, but I have so much bumps on my skin from that. Oh my gosh, man, that is so heartbreaking.
Battle. It was the ferocity of Spanish and Portuguese partisans that alarmed French soldiers most. French convoys and messengers were particularly vulnerable to ambush by these guerrilla fighters, and never traveled without an escort.
I said this is probably like the only time in like modern history where Spain was actually good, and I feel like, yeah, I could say that, because like after the Napoleonic Wars, the Spanish Empire, during the Napoleonic Wars, the Spanish Empire literally fell apart. And Spain went on a downward decline afterward. And the nail in the coffin was when America forged a BS claim to take the rest of its colonies in an illegal war, also known as the Spanish-American War, which, interestingly enough, started on my birthday.
Captain Marbeau was one such messenger, sent out at night with urgent dispatches.
The officer commanding our advance guard gave me a troop horse and 2 orderlies, and I went on my way in brilliant moonlight. When we had gone 2 or 3 leagues, we heard several musket shots, and bullets whistled close past us.
What type of accent is this?
Who were
Bro, this sounds like Italian, bro. What in the world?
hidden among the rocks.
But the most terrifying fate was to be taken alive by the guerrillas.
A little further on, we found the corpses of 2 French soldiers, recently killed. They were entirely stripped, but their shackles were near them. Some little distance further, we saw a horrible sight. A young officer of the 10th, still wearing his uniform, was nailed by his hands and feet, head downwards, to a barn door. A small fire had been lit beneath him.
Yo!
His torches had been ended by death. But as the blood was still flowing from his wounds, it was clear the murderers were not far off.
Bro. Oh, okay. This is the most gruesome, probably most gruesome epic history TV I've watched so far.
Discoveries to savage French reprisals, fueling a cycle of atrocities by both sides.
A few grenadiers and a woman canteen keeper, having dropped behind, stopped in a village to pass the night. Next day, they were given a guide who led them into a prepared ambush. There, their throats were all cut, with refinements of cruelty. The commandant of the battalion, informed of this horrible ambush, marched on the village, had it burned to the ground, seized all the able-bodied men, and announced he would have them all put to death if they did not point out the murderers.
Ay, man, nasty.
Refused to confess and were shot. But the 5th revealed the assassins. They were present. They were shot.
Oh, so they were already...
All
okay.
the elite companies were got together. The aim was
This is such a waste of resources and ammunition, bro. Especially the fact that Napoleon was about to invade Russia soon. This is... Oh my gosh, Napoleon. This is... The more I'm hearing about this in detail, and the more I'm thinking about it, the more how much I realize how much of a waste this was,
to
man.
drive off the brigands, who from time to time raided our lines and cut us off from every supply of food.
Oh wait, no, this is a
We
French
found the
accent.
brigands barricaded in a little town called Alcanes.
Yo, I never really hear a French person speaking English. So I'm not really accustomed to what a French accent sounds like, funny enough.
After a sharp fight, we got into the place and it was given over to us for pillage.
Bro,
Murdered everyone and looted everything in sight. We stayed on for another 6 weeks. The brigands attacked us several times, but they could achieve nothing. However, whenever they caught someone from our side, they subjected him to martyrdom. Their tongues and nails were torn out, and then roasted alive.
oh, that is... Yeah. Oh, that's... Oh my... Oh, that's so... That's so...
One British naval officer watched from his ship as French troops sacked the Spanish town of Corcubillon.
That is a
We observed
crazy
soldiers
sight.
pouring into the wretched town from both sides of the valley. Many of the inhabitants rushed to the fishing boats on the beach and, leaping into them indiscriminately, pushed into the stream. As we rowed up the harbour, we met hundreds of these poor people, half-dressed, screaming, and struggling hard to get beyond the reach of shot. Others fled along the sides of the hills towards the bay, hoping to be picked off the shore by boats or to conceal themselves amongst the rocks.
You know what is interesting to me is how, despite the Scottish influence in Barbados, right, which is a part of our heritage, everyone down there knows about that. it's how we didn't adopt the rolling R. Interestingly enough, we didn't adopt the rolling R. We adopted everything else for the Scottish accent, but we didn't adopt the rolling R. I always wondered why that is, but that's very interesting.
These fugitives, great numbers were brought down by the fire of the enemy.
Yeah, you see how he says great? Like, everyone say, like, the way how he's talking sounds exactly identical, but he's rolling his R's, which I know some Scottish people don't roll their R's, but it's just interesting to me how we didn't adopt that. like you might not hear the accent, especially if you're like European and you're not a native English speaker, but for comparison, Americans pronounce great as great, not great. They say great, not great. so yeah, trust me, like, because I know some Europeans who, when they learn to speak English, they don't like pronounce words like Americans would or English people would. So it kind of like accidentally sounds like one of our accents.
So completely hemmed in were these wretched people that escape is almost impossible. The horror and confusion of this frightful spectacle were increased by the conflagration of the town, in the streets of which deeds of still greater atrocity were going on.
The war in Spain had begun disastrously for the French. They faced unexpected and ferocious resistance across the country, forcing Napoleon to intervene personally with massive reinforcements. The Spanish armies were defeated. Their British allies scrambled to escape, beginning a desperate winter retreat through the mountains towards the port city of Coruña.
It became everyone for himself. The load we carried was too great, and we staggered on, looking neither to the right nor the left. If a man dropped, he found it no easy matter to get up again, unless his companion assisted him, and many died of fatigue.
I want to hear an English accent. Come on, give me an English accent. We're getting so much Scottish accents, man. Come on, give me an English accent.
As for myself, I was nearly floored by this march, and on reaching a town one night, which I think was called Zamora, I fell at the entrance of the first street we came to. The sight left my eyes.
Yeah. You see, he's not rolling his R's. He's not rolling his R's.
Reeled, and I came down like a dead man. The enemy, I should think, were at this time frequently close upon our trail, and I thought at times I heard their trumpets come down the wind as we marched. Towards the dusk of the evening...
That's interesting how he says trail. You wouldn't say trail, you would say trail. Something like that.
This day, I remember passing a man and woman lying clasped in each other's arms and dying in the snow. I knew them both, but it was impossible to help them.
British forces did manage to escape by sea, despite heavy losses. And later that year, under the command of the future Duke of Wellington, they joined forces with the Spanish and defeated the French in battle at Talavera. Lieutenant Simmons of the 95th Rifles missed the battle, but saw its grim aftermath.
The horrid sights were beyond anything I could have imagined. Thousands dead and dying in every direction. Horses, men, French and English, in whole lines who had cut each other down. And, I'm sorry to say, the Spaniards butchering the wounded Frenchmen at every opportunity and stripping them naked. which gave admission to the attacks of myriads of pernicious flies and the heat of a burning sun.
This is your glorious Napoleonic Wars. I see so many people reminiscing and fantasizing about. Freaking hell, man. It was still brutal, man.
The fate of captured soldiers in a country where all armies were continually short of water and supplies could also be dire. Spanish private Juan Manuel Sarasa was taken prisoner near Badajoz in 1811.
It would have been difficult to conduct the journey in a war's manner. It really seemed as if they wanted to starve us to death. When we set out each morning, we left behind the bodies of friends and comrades who had died in the night. Meanwhile, from the rear of the column, alas, there would come a constant rattle of shots. It was the French, finishing off the poor men who could not drag themselves along any further. Reduced to mere specters, we did our best to help one another along, for to fall behind meant certain death. But one by one, we were forced to abandon our friends and bid them farewell forever.
Just a few months into the war, Napoleon left Spain, never to return. As he occupied himself with affairs in Central Europe and his plans to invade Russia, French forces in Spain were left badly neglected.
Insult to injury. Insult to injury. So Napoleon turns against his closest ally, is wasting his resources, has the audacity to plan an invasion of Russia throughout this whole fiasco whilst this is going on, and then neglect Spain. Wow. Oh my gosh, dude, it's like if Napoleon wanted to lose.
It was a sorry situation for proud soldiers of the Grande Armée, such as Colonel Noel, who in 1811 was part of Marshal Massena's retreat from Portugal.
Our supply situation was deplorable. We lacked everything: food, clothing, boots, money, and horses. 6 months of deprivation in a country without any supplies and depending on marauding to live had not lessened the army's courage, but had exhausted it and destroyed its discipline. We had left sad memories behind us with the Portuguese, and they would curse the name of France for a long while. Survival had been necessary, it is true, but bad soldiers had behaved like brigands towards the unfortunate peasantry. If, in their turn, the Portuguese showed themselves to be savage toward our prisoners and wounded, this can be understood, although not excused.
Hey, at least there was someone with some freaking level of what the hell is the English word? Crap, guys, I'm forgetting to speak English. Alzheimer's. At least there's someone who's compassionate. You know, like
the failure of this campaign in Portugal.
Compassion. Yeah.
On the commanding general. This is quite wrong. The responsibility must lie with Napoleon, who alone wanted this war and forced it upon his generals without giving them the means of ensuring success.
Woo! Yeah, don't spit on my boy Massena. Massena is the GOAT, bruh. Like, come on now. Massena is still the GOAT. I don't care what anyone says.
Despite their retreat from Portugal, the French would continue to fight tenaciously in Spain, as the British discovered the following year, when they attacked the fortified city of Badajoz.
On our arriving at the breach, the French sentry on the wall cried out, "Who comes there?" 3 times, or words to that effect in his own language. On no answer being given, a shower of shot, canister and grape together with fireballs was hurled at random among us. I myself received 2 small slug shots in my left knee and a musket shot in my side, which must have been mortal had it not been for my canteen. For the bolt penetrated that and passed out, making 2 holes in it and then entered my side slightly. Still, I stuck to my ladder and got into the entrenchment.
That is insane, bruh.
Had by this time fallen, but the cry from our commanders being, "Come on, my lads!" We hastened to the breach, but there, to our great surprise and discouragement, we found the chevaux de frise had been fixed and a deep entrenchment made, from behind which the garrison opened a deadly fire on us.
Oh my.
Vain attempts were made to remove this fearful obstacle, during which my left hand was dreadfully cut by one of the blades. Finding no success in that quarter, we were forced to retire for a time. My wounds were still bleeding, and I began to feel very weak. My comrades persuaded me to go to the rear, but this proved a task of great difficulty. I was so weak myself that I could scarcely walk, so I crawled on my hands and knees till I got out of reach of the enemy's musketry.
Bro, the fact that you survived that, my man. Yo, holy.
We rushed forward to the breaches, where a most frightful scene of carnage was going on. The ditch was covered with dead and dying soldiers. If a man fell wounded, 10 to 1 that he ever rose again. For the volleys of musketry and grape shot that were incessantly poured upon us.
10 to 1 is crazy, bro. 10 to 1.
Made our situation too horrid for description.
Bro!
I had seen...
Did someone actually write this? This is so gruesome and disgusting, but the way how it's written is so hilarious. And the accent doesn't make it any better. The accent does not make it any better. Oh my goodness.
Like this. We remained passively here to be slaughtered, as we could do the besieged little injury from the ditch.
The British assault on Badajoz did finally succeed. Its fall paved the way for Wellington's advance into Spain in 1812, where he met the French in battle at Salamanca. British morale was sky high.
There assuredly never was an army so anxious as ours was to be brought into action. They were a magnificent body of well-tried soldiers, highly equipped and in the highest health and spirits, with the most devoted confidence in their leader, and an invincible confidence in themselves.
When the British advance began, that confidence was soon put to the test.
A craggy ridge on which the French infantry were drawn up rose so abruptly that they could fire 4 or 5 deep. The fire of musketry was by far the heaviest I have ever experienced, and was accompanied by constant discharges of grape. An uninterrupted blaze was then maintained so that the crest of the hills seemed to be one long streak of flame. At the very first volley that we received, about 80 men of the right rear of my regiment fell to the rear in one group. The commanding officer immediately rode up to know the cause, and found that they were all wounded.
The enemy's shot and shell were now making dreadful havoc. A Portuguese cadet who was attached to our regiment received a shell in the center of his body, which, bursting at the same instant, literally blew him to pieces. Another poor
Oh! Okay. Yo. Okay. Yo, I was not prepared for that. I was not prepared. Yo. I was not prepared for that.
While receiving a grape shot across his belly, his bowels protruded, and he was obliged to apply both his hands to the wound to keep them in. I shall never forget the expression of agony depicted in his countenance.
Yo, I don't know if I could keep watching this, bro. I'm not gonna lie to you, bro. I don't know if I can keep watching this, bro.
Salamanca was a great Allied victory. And though Wellington had to retreat back to the Portuguese frontier that winter, his next advance, in 1813, was decisive. The French abandoned southern Spain and Madrid and retreated to Vitoria. Here, King Joseph and Marshal Jourdan made their stand. But the Allied attack proved irresistible.
We advanced through the tumultuous scene with a battery in our front, dealing out dire destruction. Men and officers fell in every direction, and their wounds were most dreadful, being all inflicted with cannonballs or shells, except that of our colonel, who received a musket shot in his stomach. Our front had to contend with the French regiment on the right of the battery, but after politely receiving us with a few sharp volleys, which we as politely returned, they retreated into a thicket. Towards this we advanced firing, and drove them furiously before us, till they were completely routed.
I came across a poor wounded Frenchman, crying to us English not to leave him as he was afraid of the bloodthirsty Spaniards. Poor fellow could not at most live more than 2 hours, as a cannonball had completely carried off both thighs. He entreated me to stay with him, but I only did so as long as I found it convenient. I saw that he could not last long, and very little sympathy could be expected from me then, so I ransacked his pockets and knapsack and found a piece of pork ready cooked and 3 or 4 pounds of bread, which I thought would be very acceptable. The poor fellow asked me to leave him a portion, so I cut off a piece of bread and meat and emptied the beans out of my haversack, which I left by his side. I then continued on my way up the hill.
Bro, oh man, dude, I'm not saying anything because I'm just, my level of disgust is just beyond max. I don't even know. I really don't know if I want to continue this. This is actually like really. Like it's like really hard to phase me. But this is equally gruesome, barbaric, and heartbreaking, all combined into one. I really was not prepared for this. Wow. I really was not. I don't know, man. Oh, dude, this is just too sad, man. Oh man, he's gonna die, bro. He's gonna die. He still wants food. Oh, bro, that's.
For soldiers on the losing side, the aftermath of battle could be a terrifying and uncertain time.
We retreated through a mass of wagons, horses, and overturned cannon which littered the field. I crossed a ditch that was completely filled with dead and wounded. 2 enemy cavalrymen came close to me, and as I could not fire with my wet ammunition, I put my musket over my shoulder and hung my head, awaiting my fate. But the cavalrymen went off to cut down some scattered Frenchmen on the field. Dusk fell, and I was at a loss as to which way to go. In the darkness, a whistle directed me to a nearby bush. I listened and heard French being spoken. Several soldiers from the 44th Regiment, belonging to our division, answered my call.
For some Allied soldiers, the aftermath of Vitoria was the opportunity of a lifetime. as King Joseph's entire treasury had been abandoned by the fleeing enemy.
About dusk, the head of our column came suddenly on some wagons. Someone called out, "There are money carts!" No sooner were the words uttered than the division broke, as if by word of command. And in an instant, the covers disappeared from the wagons, and nothing was seen but a mass of inverted legs, while the arms were groping for dollars. For money it certainly was. The scene was disgraceful, but at the same time ludicrous. I was sent to endeavour to clear one of these wagons, at which I at length succeeded. Not, however, until the money had disappeared, when to my surprise I discovered an officer at the bottom with his hands full of the precious metal. I shall not mention either his name or his regiment.
Bro is not snitching, okay.
Wellington's victory at Victoria was the final, fatal blow to Napoleon's empire in Spain. There was bitter fighting still to come at San Sebastian and in the Pyrenees, but French defeat was now assured. Within a few months, British, Spanish and Portuguese troops would cross into France itself. The Peninsular War had been a long and bloody road. Many thousands of lives had been lost on all sides, some through violence, most from disease.
Is this his casualty rating? Okay, yeah, I already know the casualty count for this war because I already did my Napoleon in Spain series. Look, dude, you let me reactions, man, and if you like this reaction, go subscribe and go check out my other Napoleon reactions on my channel, or like my other history reactions on my channel. Go like the video so that my stuff stays on the algorithm, and if you have any suggestions for me, go comment suggestions down below, man. Thank you for watching, man. Goodbye.